Hotep, I am the Amen Osiris, the one and only undisputed God of law. We are www.deceptionstoppers.com, America's only child support education service. I am not a lawyer. This is not a law firm. We do not advocate that you don't support your human offspring. We simply advocate that you made them in private, then raised them in private. Today, I have a wonderful, wonderful class for you. And if you pay close attention, you will learn something. Today, I'm going to provide proof that you do not have to pay child support. Okay. And I'm coming from Black's Law's Dictionary. I'm coming from the Glossary of Common Child Support Terms, various case laws, and other definitions. Okay. Now, pay attention and roll with me because everything that I'm going to be presenting here is going to prove to you beyond a shadow of a doubt, number one, that there is no court order. Number two, you can relieve yourself of that court order. And number three, you are free to do so. All right, so let's jump into this. For those of you who have taken my class, you already know this. The federal, and this comes from the Federal Manual of Child Support, Section 8, page 22. The federal regulations also contain additional requirements related to the expedited process. Proceedings conducted pursuant to either the expedited judicial or expedited administrative process must be presided by an individual who is not a judge of the court. Okay. Now, so as you know, the Federal Office of Child Support Enforcement oversees the National Child Support Program. So what you have is the Federal Office of Child Support Enforcement is in a partnership with the states. A partnership is an association of two or more persons as co-owners of a business for profit. And again, I'm going to keep drilling in your heads. Business make their profit off of customers. Go right to the child support website. All right. So how can a private corporation, right, who is single and separate, it's not even the part of the government, it is literally a private and separate and single corporation that is operating in a state, it's kind of like herpes, it's just spreading from state to state. All right, that's impossible. Okay, but in other words, if child support is presided by over an individual who is not a judge of the court, then where did the court order come from? All right, you ponder that for a second. Here's the definition of an order. I took this out of Black's Law's Dictionary. A legally binding decision that sets forth the responsibilities of the parties to an action. Okay, well, why would you go to a court to determine your responsibilities? Okay, if you know you got to pay rent, you pay rent. Those are your responsibilities. However, who gave the court the authority to intervene in your personal life? Well, it is what it is. Okay, so you can read the rest of this later. All right, but check this out. It can be issued by a judge, master, or other administrative entity. You notice it says or other. So what they're saying is this order from a judge is an administrative entity. All right, administrative. That means it's an administrative officer, which is inferior to a judge, and an officer of the executive branch, which is exactly where the single and separate child support unit is. Okay. All right, here's another definition of an order. In practice, every direction of a court or judge made or entered in writing and not included in the judgment. Let me ask you a question. What is the jurisdiction of the court? The court shall be open for every man for injury done him, his lands, goods, person, and reputation, and he shall have remedy by due course of law without sale, denial, or delay. There has to be an injured party. So the only thing a court order could really produce is basically the remedy that you're seeking. All right, you're going to pay this man or woman whatever for the damages or the injuries that you caused. Now, from the Glossary of Common Child Support Terms, child support order is the document that sets an amount of money that is to be provided by a parent. Who are you to tell me or anybody what to provide for my offspring? I made them in private. I raised them in private. For the support of the parent's children. Well, hold on. Last I checked, I was a man. When did I descend or succeed to the status of parent? Who authorized you to change my name from John of the Family Doe to a parent, and more inclusively a non-custodial parent, and or the responsibility to provide? Okay, well, yes, remember, yes, these are my offspring. Yes, I have a moral responsibility to provide. All right, and I plan on doing that, but I don't need a third party intervener. Okay. All right. This amount of responsibility must be established by a court order. All right, gentlemen, if you're not aware of this, okay, child support, Title 4D is done under family law. All right, in other words, it is done under equity. It is done, if you notice, if you look of it, it's usually done in a court of chancery. A chancery court is a court of equity. Okay, equity is not built on the on positive law. It's built on the basically the morals of conscience. All right, it has nothing to do with positive law because, of course, as you know, child support is not enacted into positive law. All right, so let's keep going. Orders established by expedited process must have the same force and effect under state law as orders established by a full judicial process, although either process may provide that a judge first ratify the order. First and foremost, order is like, who are you to order me to do something? And we're going to get to that in a minute. All right. So, how can something that's done and initiated under the executive branch through a contractual obligation have the same force and effect under state law as orders established by full judicial process? That is constitutionally impossible. That is a blatant violation of separation of powers. All right. This is ex contractu. This is done under a contractual obligation. Okay. Not under the constitutional limitations of what brings where you add what brings an action to court. You have to have an injury. All right. Although either process may provide that a judge first ratify the order. Now, gentlemen, this is where we're going to get biggy and jiggy and slicky. All right. Let's look at the word ratify. Okay. Ratify. The word ratify should be limited to the final approval of a voidable transaction. All right. So if a judge is ratifying a child support order and he's doing that under contract, whether it was under contract or not. All right. Regardless of that, it is that child support order is a voidable order because it was ratified by one who theretofore had the optional right to relieve himself of its obligation. By one. Who's that one? That is you. Okay. You have the optional right to relieve yourself from a child support obligation, and you're going to learn that here today. Okay? There is no such thing as a court-ordered child support. There's no such thing as a child support order. There's no such thing as child support court. There's no such thing as child support law. Okay? What there is a such thing as is the rights, the inherent rights that you have that are listed in several constitutions. Now, I'm only going to do maybe a few constitutions, but if you really go through them and read what they say, you are now not subject to a void Title 4D obligation. And look, we're going to do the first one. Okay. All right. Pennsylvania has declared that all men are born equally free and independent and have certain inherent and indefeasible rights. So number one, all men are born equally free and independent. All right. So when they changed your status, right, to pay rent, all right, and they did that without your consent, okay, without you knowing it, without your permission, and they did it for profit. It's just like, look, if you open a McDonald's and use McDonald's name and make a profit off it, McDonald's is going to sue you for that. Okay, it's really copyright name infringement. All right, so okay, so that's one thing. So wait a minute, wait, I'm a man. Yes, okay. So who gave you permission to name me a parent? All right, so and you have inherent and indefeasible rights, and we're going to go over these words. All right, and more importantly, we're going to go over equally free and independent. You were born this way, and you are a man. It is time for you to return to being a man, and until you do so, you're not going to obtain anything. All right, with these infidels. All right, you have a right to defend life and liberty. Here's the Ohio Constitution. Again, all men are by nature free and independent and have certain inalienable rights of enjoying and defending life and liberty. Gentlemen, are you enjoying your life right now with a child support issue? No, you're not. Okay. All right. Here's New Jersey. All persons are by nature free and independent. Look, natural and unalienable rights of enjoying, defending life and liberty. Okay. All right, and as far as the word persons, if you go to the preamble, gentlemen, here's how you shut all that person shit down. We, the people of the state of New Jersey, grateful to Almighty God. Okay, and all right, so if they're grateful to Almighty God, that means they're under Genesis 1:26. God said, "Let us create man in our image and likeness." So this word person is dealing with men, not of the corporation. Okay, real simple shit. Kentucky. Now this is what I really like. Kentucky, Article 1. All men are by nature free and equal and have certain inherent and inalienable rights among which may be reckoned. That is some hard shit right there. Okay? There can be a reckoning. Okay? There can be a reckoning. So what you have here is if you go, all right, and you start applying your inherent rights, and by knowing them, all right, guess what? You'll come to find out that there is no court-ordered child support. I don't care who ordered it. Okay, I don't care if McDonald's ordered it. How can an order is what? It's a mandatory. You got to do something. That's an order. But if you're free, as all the Constitution state, if you're free, how is it that you're subject to an order? Well, let's find that out because you're going to find out that you're not. Okay. So here's the definitions of your inherent rights. Okay. So inherent power, all right, is an authority possessed without it being derived from another. Your rights, you're born with the rights, with your rights. You're born free. You're born equal. You're born independent. All right. With the alienable rights of enjoying life, seeking happiness, acquiring property, protecting property. Those are your rights. Where are those rights at this moment? All right. Now, second, you were born equal, the condition of possessing substantially the same rights, privileges, and immunities. That means we all got the same rights on this planet. Don't nobody got more rights than another. So how is it that if we're equal, well, wait a minute, how does child support have a right over your estate, which is the all caps name, the idem sonens, or the infant minor child? All right, let's move on. You were born free. Here we go. Not subject to the legal constraint of another, unconstrained, having the power to follow the dictates of your own free will. So let me ask you a question. If you can follow the dictates of your own free will and you're not subject to the legal constraint of another, why are you paying child support? Think about that. Who can force you to pay child support? That's a no thank you, and here's your proof. You were born independent, all right? Not dependent. Who are you depending on? You ain't depending on child support. They're depending on you. You're not subject to, all right, control, restriction, modification, or limitation from a given outside source. Why are you filing for modifications? Why are you going to modification hearings, all right, when you're not subject to them from a given outside source? Who's the outside source? The 4D partnership, the 4D franchise, the 4D contractors. Okay. There's no such thing as child support court. There's child support contractors. There is no child support court. All right. So that is the outside source. I hope you're following along here. Let's look at so if you're not subject to the legal constraint and you're not subject to control, restriction, or modification, let's look at the word subject to. Subject to means liable, subordinate, subservient, inferior, obedient to. Well, wait a minute. Aren't you free? Aren't you free? If you're free, you're not subject to the legal constraint of another. So if you're free, that means you can't be liable, subordinate, subservient, inferior, or obedient to. Can you? That doesn't make any sense. Think about that. All right? And your own free will should dictate that to you. You're unconstrained. So if you are subject to, then you're constrained. How'd you get constrained? You must have waived your rights. You ponder that for a minute. All right, now let's keep it moving. So what this boils down to, gentlemen, if you have a child support issue, all right, it is enforced upon you under color of law. It is in violation of your rights, due process, self-incrimination, your right to privacy, involuntary servitude and slavery, peonage, and really, if you look at it, unjust enrichment. All right, but I'll show you, you can use unjust enrichment against baby mama and the child support agency in a whole separate case if you choose to do so. All right, so this is oppressive. Oppression, the misdemeanor committed by a public officer. Did I not prove to you under Tennessee law 36-5-2021 that the child support agency is a public office. Who, under color of his office, was Title 4D enacted into positive law? No, it was not. All right, so it's done under color of his office and color of law. Wrongfully inflicts upon any person, man, any bodily harm, imprisonment, or other injury. What is the injury? If you've been in prison, then that's oppression. All right. Um, Bodily harm, if you if you have bodily harm, that's fine. But you did suffer a loss, and that loss is causing you injury. It's financial injury. An act of cruelty. Is child support pleasant? Is it a wonderful thing? No, it is a cruel shit. All right. And just so you know, the Social Security Act was put in place to end poverty. All right. But under the Social Security Act, the very one that was put in place to end poverty, it has caused millions of men across this country and women to go into poverty. So it is an act of cruelty. Severity, unlawful exaction. There it is right there. Look up exaction. Or excessive use of authority. What authority? How can a private corporation have authority, but they're giving you impression that they do? Okay, an act of subjecting to cruel and unjust hardship, an act of domination. Well, if you're free, you're not subject to the legal constraint of another. Unconstrained, having the power to follow the dictates of your own free will, which means, guess what? They subject you to cruelty and unjust hardship. All right? You don't think it's hardship when you go and look at your check and they done took 75% of your check and damn near left you nothing to live on, no gas, no food. That's hardship. And these people are liable. I'm the Amen Osiris. If you wish to master this technique, stop by deceptionstoppers.com. We will further educate you. Okay. And this information, gentlemen, it's in plain sight. It's not hidden. Okay. If you're born equal, free, and independent, guess what? How can a child support order be in place? And especially if you have the optional right. Number one, a child support order is a voidable transaction. Okay, it is a transaction. Okay, it is a commercial transaction. It is a negotiable instrument. And more importantly, for those of you who don't know, and more than likely none of you know, all right, child support. Guess what? This is all floated on bonds. Okay, this is all underwritten by the federal government. All right. But in order to get that information, you'll have to definitely schedule class. Okay. So they're creating these bonds in your name. All right. And they're making a profit off of it. It's unjust enrichment. Okay. Get your study on, get your groove on, and start looking at your words. Okay. You do not have to pay child support. Now, I'm not telling you, that's the law. Now, what you do with this information is up to you. Okay. Because you know what they do if you don't pay them. All right, so you have to be prepared for whatever is going to come the way. But the objectivity is, why don't you just go out here and shut this shit down? And that way you could be done with it. You got to start somewhere, gentlemen. Okay, start today. Get your freedom back. Okay, take care of your offspring without a third party. Come by and get some of this education. All right, use the information that is put forth. All right, there's a lot of good information out here on the tube itself. Just make sure that you research all the information. And again, there's no particular wrong way of going about doing it. As long as you shut them down, I don't care how you do it. Knowledge is going to be your best key, your best weapon. All right, but if you got something that works, use it and shut it down. And then get online and give your testimony. Hotep.